The morning sun crept over the edge of Blind Frog Ranch, casting long, skeletal shadows across the rocky terrain. The dry wind whispered over the ridges, brushing dust over rusted mining equipment and fossilized wood. It was quiet, eerily so, as though the desert itself held its breath. Duane stood at the mouth of the mine shaft, eyeing the dark entrance like a man staring into the past. The ranch had yielded strange things before: unmarked vaults, unexplained radiation, magnetic anomalies. But lately it had grown worse, ominous, almost sentient. Strange lights flickered underground. Static interference scrambled the instruments. Wildlife had vanished. Something was changing, and not for the better. Still, the work had to go on. The mine had been sealed for weeks after their last descent revealed a hidden chamber. A cracked wall oozed a faint green vapor when struck, unlike anything Duane or his team had seen. Samples were sent off for testing. The lab results never returned. A follow-up inquiry yielded only a terse response: do not pursue further excavation. Potential exposure risks. That had been over a month ago. Duane didn't wait for approval. Armed with breathing apparatus, heat sensors, and a custom drone outfitted with a thermal lens, he descended. Tim, his son, monitored him from topside, eyes flicking across readouts: oxygen levels, structural integrity, vibration sensors, all normal. For the first 20 minutes. The deeper Duane went, the thicker the air became. It pressed inward, heavy, chemical wrong. The mine hadn't been like this before. The smell of rust and damp stone was replaced by a coppery tang that clung to his mask. Moisture gathered inside the lens of his helmet, blurring the flashlight's beam. He wiped it, but the smear only grew. Then came the noise. A low, rattling hum began to reverberate through the walls, too rhythmic to be geological. It pulsed like breath, like something was alive. The drone's feed started to distort, pixelation, static, a sudden drop in battery. Then nothing. The screen upstairs went black. Tim tried to radio his father. No response. Inside the mine, Duane turned a corner and felt the temperature drop instantly. Frost coated the walls. Greenish fog pooled at his feet, swirling in unnatural patterns. He shined his flashlight ahead and froze. There, carved into the stone, were symbols. Not dynamite marks. Not mining etchings. Symbols, intricate and looping, glowing faintly beneath the frost. They weren't Navajo. They weren't Ute. They weren't anything he recognized. And at the center of the pattern, a narrow slit in the rock pulsed with green light. It opened. The wall hissed as a fine mist jetted from the crevice. It enveloped Duane in seconds, too fast for escape. His mask clicked. The filters strained. Something corroded the seal. Eyes stinging, chest tightening. He stumbled back, coughing. The world blurred, green overtaking black above. Alarms blared. Oxygen levels dropped sharply. Vitals spiked, then plummeted. Tim scrambled into the secondary shaft to reach his father, dragging a second air tank behind him. You could barely see. The mine was no longer quiet, it growled. The very rock seemed to shiver as he descended. 20 minutes later, they emerged, barely alive. Duane collapsed in the dust, his skin pale, lips blue, eyes dilated. His gear was pitted, corroded at the seals, and his mask had melted inward like plastic near flame. Whatever the gas was, it wasn't natural. It was corrosive, mutagenic, and it had almost killed him. They quarantined the shaft. A week passed. The air remained tainted. Duane recovered slowly, though his lungs ached and sleep became haunted. He spoke less. He began drawing the symbols he had seen, over and over, on napkins, on walls, in the margins of maps. None of it made sense. Until the readings changed the magnetic field around the mine, reversed polarity for a full hour. Animals fled the ranch entirely. Nearby water tested with trace elements of arsenic and cadmium. The underground spring, once a source of clean water, turned milky. At night, lights moved beneath the earth, flickering along fault lines like veins pulsing under skin. Duane had triggered something. The team brought in external help: geologists, chemists, a toxicologist with military clearance. None could explain what they found. Air samples from the sealed shaft contained compounds not catalogued in any known gas family. Hyperreactive. Biovolatile. One theorist suggested it was not of terrestrial origin. A few laughed. No one laughed long. The gas had intelligence, or at least a pattern. It responded to heat, to light, to sound. It moved towards signals, clinging to wires and sensors. It degraded anything exposed to it: masks, drones, even steel. And it never dispersed. It hovered, lingered. The question now was simple. What had Duane found? A second team attempted a controlled entry. Full hazmat, external. Air supply, automated drones. They made it 90 feet before the first drone combusted. The second dissolved. The third captured a single image before blackout. A pool of black liquid surrounded by fractured stone. The liquid moved. It wasn't just gas. The presence beneath Blind Frog Ranch wasn't simply a pocket of toxic air. It was a system. A chamber. Possibly a containment unit. Something had been buried, sealed in rock and layered under history. And now it stirred. At night, Duane awoke coughing. The sound of hissing echoed through the ventilation. The air outside the shaft remained clean. But somehow, the contamination spread. The house lights flickered. Metal began to corrode. They relocated to trailers. Equipment was buried in tops and bleach. Still, rust bloomed. Then, a new discovery. Farther east of the main shaft, a series of aligned stones marked a shallow ravine. The stones were scorched. Beneath them, another tunnel. It wasn't listed on any map. Not a mine. Something older. Duane, still weakened, refused to let anyone else go first. They reinforced the tunnel with steel and foam, filtered the air, and descended again. The passage opened to a chamber the size of a gymnasium. At its center stood a queue of obsidian-like rock, humming with faint energy. Floating inches above it, suspended in magnetic stasis, was a small glass orb. Inside, a swirl of green vapor, identical to the gas, a fail-safe. Duane realized the truth: the poison wasn't a leak. It was containment. The orb was the lock. Someone, had buried this place long ago, sealed it, and designed the orb to contain the anomaly. When he fractured the first chamber, the system responded. Defensive gas. Protective mechanisms. Now the orb pulsed, dimly flickering, as though weakening. They evacuated the chamber. A team stayed behind to monitor the readings. Within hours, the air grew dense. One man collapsed. Another screamed about voices in the rock. The orb cracked, hairline fractures spidering across its surface. Instruments failed. Batteries drained. Duane watched from a distance. He understood now. They were tampering with a structure built to protect, not treasure, not minerals, but the earth itself. Something had been imprisoned below Blind Frog Ranch. Not ancient man. Not even life as they knew it. A thing older. Sentient, perhaps. Toxic to all carbon-based life. And now the prison was failing. In the following days, a government vehicle arrived. No insignia. 4 men in sealed suits took control of the site. Duane was told to leave. No explanation, no warning, no rights. He packed up quietly. Tim took what notes he could. The men sealed the shaft with concrete and foam, layered it in steel, buried it under 20 feet of earth. Sensors were planted. Cameras installed. It wasn't enough. The ground continued to warm. Nights grew louder. The animals never returned. Duane drove out one last time, standing at the edge of the field where it all began. He stared down at the buried mine, feeling something stir beneath his feet. A low pulse. A vibration, rhythmic and growing stronger. Blind Frog Ranch didn't give up its secrets easily. Tucked in a desolate corner of eastern Utah, the property sprawled like a wound in the desert. Generations had passed through the land without ever uncovering what lay beneath, though whispers of treasure, ancient tunnels, and unnatural phenomena had lingered for over a century. Duane wasn't the first to try and pry those secrets loose, but he was the most persistent. He had sunk time, money, and blood into peeling back the layers of rock and earth hiding the truth. Over time, the ranch had given him fragments. Gold flakes trapped in stone, strange maps etched in languages that didn't match any native dialect, metallic objects shaped like keys but fitting no known locks. Yet none of it added up, not until the gas started rising. It began on a morning like any other. Dry air clung to the canyon walls. The team had unearthed a new cavern behind a collapsed section of tunnel in the northern shaft. Nothing unusual, just more dark passageways to clear and reinforce. But as Duane broke through a particularly brittle section of shale, a sharp hiss erupted from a narrow fissure. A cold vapor spilled from the wall and clung low to the floor, greenish and slow-moving, like mist with purpose. His first instinct had been to freeze. The smell struck next, metallic and acidic, something like scorched batteries and decayed copper. Within seconds, his breathing mask fogged over and his throat began to burn. Panic set in too late. He stumbled back, but the gas surged, and his legs failed him just as the world tilted.